that there has to be a gradation to respond to some of those sensitivities, to respond to the sensitivities of the LIVSI, to a gradation down to respond to the existing character and context. But nevertheless, the council does contend that the maximum heights that it's proposed for this area seem reasonable, particularly given the hierarchy and scale that we're seeing elsewhere in Lewisham, but also elsewhere in London. And I'd just say again that in order for Lewisham and London to meet its housing requirements, there will be a step change, a significant step change in terms of density and scale. And we're already seeing that throughout London. Sorry, just one more point, just to elaborate on the work that we did. In terms of the tall building study, we were looking at the suitability, and obviously, if this is identified as an opportunity area, and given its significant scale, we do think there is an opportunity. But I'd also make reference to the sensitivities. Given the scale of the site, I'd question, and it is a genuine open question, what is the impact of the maximum heights that we have that we've allocated here? Given that we've got guidelines and requirements about the transition, if there was clustering of tall buildings in this site, what would be the significant impact? And the council, it doesn't see that there is those significant impacts in accordance with the London Plan Policy.
Sydenham Society.
Thank you. When we challenged the maximum height under Matters 10, David Symes invoked the robust methodology of the characterization study. So what we've done is we've looked very carefully at the characterization study, and we feel that it supports our argument that in order to integrate the proposed development within the site, that tall buildings, would not be appropriate. I also think it's a little disingenuous to sort of suggest that there's a choice between sort of suburban level of development and high rise. It's ridiculous. The study that Discourse Architecture did prior to developing the master plan involved looking at the densities of European cities. We looked at Barcelona, Paris. We looked at certain quarters of London like Bayswater, and we looked at the scale of the buildings and the development. And I think it's a really spurious argument to suggest that high rise, that high density requires high rise. I mean, what we're saying is that a master plan, a vision for this site was developed by and with the local community, and that received overwhelming support for high density development, but at a kind of medium rise that was consistent with precedent of European cities. I'm afraid, within the borough, there are not great precedents for these sort of dystopian kind of high-rise developments. I'm thinking about Lewisham Town Centre, if you've been lucky enough to visit that. And we don't want that in Bell Green. Thank you.
Just come back to the council, and I'll come back to Bell Green, and then back to the council, and we'll look at modifications.
Yes, I think just to respond to that point, I mean, personally, I think there are good examples of high-rise buildings in Lewisham, and I think there's good examples of where we've mixed low, mid, and high-rise in Lewisham. Cannon Wharf, Ploughway being an obvious example, which includes mid-rise development, low-rise development, and then two much taller elements in a very successful manner. I do think that in terms of densities, and it'd be really interesting to hear what densities the Sydenham Society were getting, and maybe we can have that discussion offline in terms of the kind of densities. My experience and our experience in Lewisham is that when you're looking at densities over, say, 250 dwellings per hectare, it does require tall buildings to be incorporated within it. You can achieve high density schemes with mid-rise buildings, but there's a point where you tip over essentially, and it does require those significantly taller buildings. And what I would say is that, you know, we, in the context of Lewisham's, these buildings are not considered excessively tall. We have got other areas where we're looking at 20 plus, 30 plus. There are other areas in London as well, Kidbrooke, for example, surrounded by suburban development, which is a high density, high rise area. So there is a lot of precedent for this. And I do think we can create successful places with high density, high rise development, which supports the critical mass to effectively support facilities and local retail, employment, etc. So I do think it is possible.
Green.
Hi, thank you. Lewisham can't see significant evidence that there'd be a problem because it won't talk to anybody. We're not able to say, we basically are so close to wanting the same things. In fact, most of the time we do want the same things, but you're not willing to listen to the subtleties. We need the future transport hub to be determined. Then we can have a focal point and we can have a cluster of tall buildings to your heart's content. We can't have them scattered randomly at the will. Oh, the developer says it'll be fine. Now, Barrett, who, by the way, we're being told this has to be thought through because it's in the plan and the plan's going to happen no matter what you say. This is what the message we're getting at the actual consultation process. It's happening. This is the Lewisham way. The justification given for the height, well, there isn't any justification. There are no calculations. There's no explanation how Lewisham came up with the tall building zone. The strange little sticky out bits in the bottom right hand corner, which belongs to SGN mostly, that is left over from a stage 18 ownership swap or site allocation swap. But the developers keep saying, oh, well, the gas holders were so how many stories high or whatever. The gas holders breathed. If they were solid first thing in the morning, by the afternoon, the level had gone down and you saw this spectacular, beautiful lacework behind the live sea. It was a constant animation. It was movement. The idea that justifies them for whatever they want to do is not true. In fact, that was a strategic view, which was mentioned in Anne Saunders' The Art and Architecture of London as being a feature of the view from the Sydenham Bridge. Alas, no more due to greed. But anyway, this is why we need to protect what's left. The idea you can then pull huge high buildings behind the live sea, and it's, well, that's okay because the gas holders were there. They weren't even the whole day filling that space. And we want to have a look at the whole site, have a broad brush where we're going to have the features, where we're going to introduce pathways where people can walk following the actual desire lines. Currently, there's only 2 pedestrian entrances into Sainsbury's car park. It's ridiculous. You have to walk right round unless you climb over the fence like most people do. So basically, what is so scary about talking to us? We know the site. We know what you want. We want the same. We've been banging on about this for longer than Lewisham Council has. We want this to happen. We want new homes. We want a new area. But why are we so? Why is it so unthinkable that you could sit down across a table and say, what do we want? We could actually bash out an agreement, but not when we're being blocked. But by the way, having told us we can't be a neighbourhood forum, we're then told that our group of 100 people cannot be an amenity society because Belgreen doesn't have a conservation area, and they had decided that only conservation areas were allowed to have an amenity society. I know it's not relevant, but it is relevant to this attitude that we're up against. Anyway, that's me.
Thank you. Does the council want to make any final comments?
Just that the local plan has been subject to public consultation in accordance with our SEI at each stage of the process, and we contend that it's been carried out in an appropriate manner. We've responded to the Regulation 18 and Regulation 19 reps individually, so I don't think we've got anything further to add on that part.
Sydenham Society.
Thank you. I just got a brief final point to make. So when the Sydenham Society prepared the master plan for this area, we were motivated by a sort of worrying pattern of piecemeal development in the borough, for example, around Forest Hill Station, where we felt that developers were basically given a free rein to maximise the potential of the site based purely on commercial criteria without really regard for the interests of the wider community. So at Belgreen, we saw that there was a void, and as Belgreen Forum have been saying, we are very much in favour of constructive comment and development, and we feel that that one way to try and sort of challenge piecemeal development, which we felt was very negative, was to put forward this sort of wider vision. I think what we're concerned about now is we can see that the logical dilemma of asking people to comply with a master plan that doesn't exist, but at the same time, we have great sympathy for the restricted resources that the planning department will be must operate under. Our concern is that if in the event that a master plan isn't forthcoming, what is there to prevent each of these 4 sites being developed in a piecemeal pattern? I mean, this is what we set out to try and challenge, in a constructive way. And I can't answer that question. Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any modifications to this allocation, please, to the council?
There are no modifications to this policy.
And does the council have any final comments on this allocation?
No.
It's 12:48. I think we'll take a break for lunch now. If we could come back at 1:45, if that's acceptable to everybody. 1:45. Yes. Right, we're adjourned until 1:45. Thank you.